There is a demon slayer who uses a double-barreled shotgun instead of a sword, and who has the ability to eat the flesh of demons in order to gain the physical powers of a demon in battle. By the end of this video, you will know everything you need to know about Genya Shinazugawa, the younger brother of the Wind Hashira Sanemi, and one of the most unique and memorable demon slayers in history. Genya has actually been around since the very first arc of the story, but he really gets a chance to shine during the Swordsmith Village arc, so let's get into it. You guys know the drill. If you enjoy our Demon Slayer content and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like and comment right now. It only takes you a second, but it helps me out a lot with that YouTube algorithm. And of course, if you're one of the over 50% of people who watch our videos but haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, do me a big favor and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. Subscribing on YouTube is completely free, but it helps us out a lot. Genya was born into a family of 7 children, so it was him, his older brother Sanemi, and 5 other siblings. Their mother was a very short and petite woman, and she worked extremely hard, from morning until night. Genya never even remembers seeing her sleep. That's how hard she worked for her family. But while their mother was great, their father was just the opposite. He was an extremely large man who beat his wife and children. Even though their mother was much smaller than their father, she always did her best to shield her children from their father's attacks. And she would often absorb his cruel beatings with her own body. Genya's mother was a hero to him, and his father was a monster. His father was eventually killed in the street by one of the many people who hated him because of the kind of man he was. He might have been someone he wronged, or someone he owed money to, or just someone who didn't like him for whatever reason. Genya and Sanemi felt that their father got exactly what he deserved, and after that, their mother worked hard to provide for her family while Genya and Sanemi did their best to take care of their other siblings. But then one night, their mother didn't come home from work. The kids became concerned because she had never been out so late, and Sanemi went out to look for her. However, before Sanemi could return, a demon broke into the house and attacked the Shinazugawa siblings. The demon's attacks killed Genya's brothers and sisters, and it was during this attack that he picked up that large scar on his face. At first, Genya was confused about what was even happening, and he thought that a wolf had forced its way inside his house. Thankfully, before Genya was also killed, Sanemi arrived. He engaged the demon in combat while telling Genya to run away. Sanemi then forced the demon out into the street and continued to fight there. Back inside the house, Genya was still in utter shock and disbelief about what happened, and he told his siblings to just put pressure on their wounds and hang in there, even though they were all already dead. Genya was in a state of pure shock, and his brain simply couldn't accept the reality of the situation. Eventually, he ran out into the street to look for a doctor who could help his siblings. But as he rushed through the street, he came across a blood-soaked Sanemi holding a cleaver. Lying on the ground by Sanemi's feet was their mother. She was covered in blood, and she wasn't moving. She was dead. Genya began to cry, and as he held his mother's body in his arms, he screamed at Sanemi. He asked why Sanemi would kill their mother like this, and he called his own brother a murderer. But that's because at the time, Genya just couldn't accept the terrible truth. The so-called wolf that he saw attacking him and his siblings was not a wolf at all. It was a demon. And it was not just any demon. It was their own mother, who had been turned into a demon and who then came back to her family home to attack her own children. Now, from everything that we know about her as a human, she would never do this intentionally. So clearly being turned into a demon changed her completely and made her lose her mind and attack her own children. Basically, I don't think we can hold this against her as a person because she wasn't in control of her own actions. Sanemi didn't even realize who he was fighting at first, and he only learned the tragic truth as the fight moved outside and into the light of dawn. To this day, Genya feels terrible for his brother, and how he must have felt having to kill his own mother in that way. After their father died, Sanemi had vowed that he and Genya would protect the family together, and that they would defend their mother and their younger siblings. And then he went through such a tragic experience. He was forced to kill his own mother after she became a demon and killed his siblings. And then, after all of that, Genya, Sanemi's last remaining sibling, screamed at him angrily and called him a murderer. Genya has always regretted how he behaved towards his brother, and he is determined to become a Hashira in order to one day earn his brother's respect and forgiveness. After the demon attack, Sanemi abandoned his younger brother and dedicated himself to hunting down demons. At first, he didn't even know that the demon slayers existed, and he didn't know about Nichiren blades either, so he just used whatever weapons he could find. He would locate demons, trap and immobilize them, and then wait for the sun to come out and burn them. Sanemi's actions were so wild and reckless that he later thought that he might have been subconsciously trying to end his own life. But he was lucky that he possessed an extremely rare and special blood type called Marechi. This blood type is especially intoxicating to demons, and it distracts them and slows them down, which allowed Sanemi to get the jump on them. During one of his demon hunts, he met a demon slayer called Masachika Kumeno, and this demon slayer recruited Sanemi into the demon slayer corps. But unlike Sanemi, Genya didn't have any impressive natural abilities, and he was never able to learn a breathing style. Out of pure desperation, Genya decided to take a different route to gaining strength. He began eating the flesh of demons, which allowed him to temporarily attain the physical constitution of a demon, including their superhuman strength and regeneration abilities. Genya's one natural talent was his unusually strong jaw and his unique digestive system, which made it possible for him to eat and digest demon flesh, and that is exactly what he decided to do. When he eats demon flesh, Genya attains a demonic form in which he grows fangs and in which the whites of his eyes turn black. He is the only person in the entire Demon Slayer Corps who is able to do this, although in the past there were a few others who had this ability. We know of at least one other Demon Slayer who was able to do this, but he lived over 300 years ago. We first meet Genya during the first arc of the Demon Slayer story, the final selection arc, where he is one of the people who survives the 7-day trial along with Tanjiro, Kanao, and Zenitsu. There was of course a fifth person who passed the trial, Inosuke, but he is not shown until later. When the other four meet with two Ubuyashiki children after the trials are completed, Genya is extremely irritable, impatient, and violent, and he demands to be given a color-changing katana right away. He physically swats away his crow, and then he actually hits the 8-year-old Kanata Ubuyashiki and grabs her hair, demanding a katana immediately. Tanjiro grabs Genya's arm and threatens to break it if he doesn't let go of Kanata, and when he doesn't, Tanjiro really goes on to break Genya's forearm. Needless to say, this is not the best first impression for Genya, and throughout the next few arcs we only get brief snippets of Genya. And in all of them he is very rude and standoffish. We don't really get to understand Genya's character until the Swordsmith Village arc. Quick warning, I can't really explain the full extent of Genya's powers without including spoilers for the Swordsmith Village arc and beyond, so please proceed with caution, you have been warned. As I mentioned earlier, by eating the living flesh of a demon, Genya is able to temporarily gain the physical characteristics of a demon. The extent of the demonic power that Genya gains depends on the strength of the demon whose flesh he consumes. If he eats a weaker demon, he will still gain some demonic abilities, like the ability to regrow a lost tooth, or the ability to recover from wounds that would have incapacitated a regular human. But Genya is at his strongest when he consumes the flesh of Upper Moon demons, which he manages to do twice. During the Swordsmith Village arc, he consumes the wood created by Zohakuten, one of the Upper Moon 4 Hantengu's demon forms. And later on in the story, he consumes the hair and sword of Kokushibo, who is the strongest Upper Moon, Upper Moon 1. After consuming the wood generated by Zohakuten, Genya's strength and speed increase drastically, and he is able to rip out entire trees from the ground and throw them at Hantengu one after the other. Later on in the story, during the battle against Kokushibo, Genya is able to fire bullets at Kokushibo that transform into powerful demonic trees upon impact. These trees look similar to the tree creatures that Zohakuten creates, and they are able to warp themselves around Kokushibo and temporarily bind him in place. It is likely that this ability to create demonic trees stems from the fact that Genya consumed Zohakuten's flesh much earlier, implying that even though the effects of Genya's demon eating are temporary, some aspects of the flesh he consumes remain inside him and are able to manifest again at a later date. Genya is at his absolute strongest when he manages to eat flesh that belongs to Upper Moon 1 Kokushibo, the strongest demon in the world after Muzan himself. Genya becomes so powerful that even after his body is literally cut in two, he is able to reattach his body parts and regenerate them in just a few seconds. He also gains the ability to hear Muzan's telepathic instructions to Kokushibo. Later, when Genya also consumes some of Kokushibo's demonic sword, Genya's appearance begins to take on more of Kokushibo's characteristics, and he is able to withstand even the most severe wounds, including the loss of his head, without dying. He is also able to create a demonic flesh gun in a similar way that Kokushibo creates his demonic flesh sword. And this flesh gun leads to the development of Genya's very own blood demon art. Genya is able to control the direction and velocity of the bullets that he fires from his flesh gun, meaning that he can literally manipulate them and force them to move around corners and other obstacles in order to hit their intended target directly. This makes his bullets practically impossible to avoid, and once they enter the flesh of the particular demon that Genya is targeting, they will then turn into trees that will entangle and trap the demon. These demonic flesh bullets that Genya uses also have the ability to drain the target's demon blood, which prevents them from effectively activating their blood demon art. It is important to note that because Genya's battle strategy requires him to take on the physical attributes of demons, he can also be injured by attacks that are targeted specifically at demons, such as Nezuko's blood demon art. Genya is also able to perform a technique called repetitive action, which he learned from the stone hashira Gyome Himejima. Essentially, you repeatedly perform a predetermined action such as a religious chant in order to heighten your concentration to the extreme, and this enables you to fully open up all 5 of your senses. You then summon a memory of anger or pain, which increases your heart rate and body temperature, allowing you to draw out the full physical powers of your body. Shifting back and forth from repetitive action to exerting your full strength allows you to perform superhuman physical feats, such as moving a giant boulder. This technique is separate from breathing styles, but some Demon Slayers are able to use both techniques at the same time, which helps them unlock the Demon Slayer mark and maintain it for a longer period of time. Initially, even Genya's best efforts to repair the relationship between him and his brother fail to bear fruit, and Sanemi appears to have no interest in reconnecting with Genya. Sanemi tells Genya that he doesn't consider scum like him to be his brother, and that Genya should just quit the Demon Slayer Corps. Sanemi believes that someone who can't even use breathing styles cannot become a Hashira, and eventually he tells Genya that if he doesn't quit the Demon Slayer Corps, he, Sanemi, will personally kill Genya. Nevertheless, we later learned that Sanemi behaved this way because he wanted his brother to leave the Demon Slayer Corps so that he could have a normal family and live a normal life. Sanemi tried so hard to discourage his brother from being a Demon Slayer because he didn't want him to die young at the hands of a demon. Eventually, the two brothers are able to repair their relationship, and they both fight valiantly in the epic battle against Upper Moon 1 during the Infinity Castle arc. So let me ask you, what is your honest opinion of Genya? Does his backstory and character development make up for the absolutely horrible first impression he gives off at the beginning of the story? Do you like how the story ends for Genya and Sanemi? Let me know down in the comments. And if you're looking for an epic Demon Slayer video to watch next, don't miss my full breakdown of the strongest Demon Slayer ever, Yoriichi Tsukikuni, and all of his many powers and abilities. Link in the description and on screen. If you enjoyed this Demon Slayer video and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like right now. And if you're one of the over 50% of people who watch our videos but haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, do me a quick favor right now and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications.